All right, everybody, it's time. Okay. I finished The Stone Sky, and it was amazing. A+, 1,000 stars, at least. Okay. So this is the last book of the Broken Earth trilogy by N.K. Jemisin, and, like, you know what? She absolutely deserved all of the Hugos. She deserves all of the awards. This book should get an Oscar. It's so good. All right. I don't want to get into, like, you know, a bunch of spoilers because it's the third book in a trilogy, so I kind of feel like there's not as much I can talk about, but it was fantastic. I am, like, obsessed with so much about this series, and I don't know, there's just so much that happened in this book, and just, like, it's both like actual things that occurred, and then also just, like, emotional highs and lows that these characters go through. I didn't think I was going to spend as much time, like, being obsessed with, for example, Shafa and Nasun's relationship as I was. I was, like, 100% there for that. It was making me depressed. And, I don't know, there was just so much good stuff. Like, yeah, whatever. I don't know. I don't even know. It's just an amazing book. And, like, if you have ever had a little bit of interest in this trilogy, like, you should read it. It's really good. Like, you know, if you like high fantasy, then, you know, you should absolutely read this trilogy. It's absolutely wild. In this book I really enjoyed how we got Hoa's backstory in this one, and it's like in each book she comes up with something to keep it interesting, like a new story to tell or a new character to talk about. And, like, despite the fact that, I don't know, they're each just different in their own ways, but you still have, like, the through line of Esun as a character, but, like, I don't even know what the fuck I'm saying. Just, it was really good, and, everyone who likes fantasy should read it. Don't be intimidated. I mean, these books aren't even that long. Like, by a high fantasy reader's standards, they're not. And, like, I mean, you know, there's a lot of dark shit. I think it's worth mentioning that, you know, there's probably a lot of trigger warnings for a lot of things, but I would say just, like, there's some body horror, gore, and also just various kinds of abuse in these books, and just both from kind of institutions and then also just from individuals. There's just a lot of fucked up stuff. There's murder, there's all sorts of stuff, but, you know, so there's that. But, my God, these books. Emotions. Okay. Anyway, I think I'll just kind of cut it off there because I don't want to go into super in-depth into detail. Just, it was amazing. And I think, like, every single person who likes high fantasy, what are you doing if you haven't read this trilogy yet? Hey, Children of Time by Adrian Tchaikovsky. I finished it. Look at this. Look at this chonky motherfucker. Okay, so this is science fiction, kind of, obviously, and it is the first of a series, which I will probably continue reading. I don't know. There's one sequel right now. I'm not sure what the plan is after that. And I thought it was quite good. It was interesting. It was also interesting to read after Dragon's Egg. So, like, for anybody watching this, obviously, there's a bigger gap between you thinking about what books I read in January versus February. But for me, after I finished reading Dragon's Egg, this was the next sci-fi book I read. So they're similar in kind of an interesting way. Basically, the thing in Dragon's Egg was that you got to watch the development of this entire species and civilization of these aliens, where in this book you get to do basically the same thing, except they're spiders. And instead of doing it from the perspective of humanity super fast, they're actually doing it at a sort of a normal pace, but the human characters are all coming in and out of like cryo sleep. So they'll go and spend like several hundred years, you know, frozen while stuff is happening on the planet. So the basic premise of this book is that there was this big ancient empire of space of humans. And one of the things they did was terraform planets, and there was a scientist who wanted to run an experiment on this particular planet where she was going to leave a bunch of like apes there basically and infect them with this virus, which should cause them to evolve higher intelligence faster, basically. But then that didn't end up working out quite right, due to reasons I won't get into it. But this is all from like the first chapter. But the virus still did make its way to the planet, and it infected, it ended up infecting a lot of like the sort of arthropods. And as a result, you had all the different species of spiders, especially, becoming more intelligent and larger also. So yeah, a lot of the book is following the spiders, particular spider species that wins out as it develops civilization and technology and stuff. And also as it has kind of a relationship with the cryogenically frozen / merged with a computer mad scientist lady who is orbiting the planet. And yeah, anyway, the human characters are coming from Earth on an Ark ship like 2,000 years later or something, right? So like they actually it's more than that now that I think about it. No, it's right. Okay, so from the perspective of the human characters, it's been 2,000 years kind of their journey and stuff, but no, since this mad scientist and her experiment started, it's been much longer than that. So a lot of changes have taken place on Earth, but ultimately humans managed to destroy the planet's environment enough that they needed to leave. And this Ark ship, the Gilgamesh, makes its way to this world, and then that's where the trouble starts. It takes a long time to get to the point where you actually have contact between the humans and the spiders. And even then, that's largely not what the book is about. But anyway, enough summarizing. I quite liked it. I think typical of a lot of science fiction that's more concept driven. It's not very heavy on character. By the end of it, I was fond of the few consistent characters, but I mean, I never felt like they were that complicated, but it also doesn't matter, just if that's like a thing you care about. Maybe hard sci-fi is not for you. I don't know. Is this hard sci-fi? Kind of. I think it kind of is. I'm not really sure where the line gets drawn, but I think that the whole, here's how the spiders would do it if they were super smart and also like 3 feet long, is really interesting. Like basically this whole, how they would evolve a civilization and how they would think about things and what they would care about and how they would make technology is all really interesting. So that's the cool part of this for me. With the spiders, because there are these leaps in time throughout the book, you don't have a consistent spider character, but there are a number of different spider characters, and some of them I really liked, and they're kind of shorter sections in the book. So that was really cool. I had no idea how it was going to end until I got there, but I liked the ending, and I have a guess on what the next book is probably about, and I will probably read it. It's called Children of Ruin. This is... it's so pleasingly floppy and long and large. So, also this is my favorite kind of cover. Just get me a planet, get me a spaceship. If you have both, it's all the better. But one will do, but both is better. Okay. Anyway, I liked it. All right, we're going to talk about To Be Taught If Fortunate by Becky Chambers, which is a little novella, a sweet little novella. I really liked it. So, Becky Chambers is writing the Wayfarer series. This is not set in the same universe as far as I can tell. If it is, it's way, way, way earlier. But I don't think it's the same universe. And it's just... it's wonderful. It gave me all of these feelings about space exploration and about just like doing things just to learn. Like the title there's a quote here at the back that the title comes from, and it's something that was engraved on the Voyager like album, the record thing on the Voyager. And you know, he says, we step out of our solar system into the universe seeking only peace and friendship, to teach if we are called upon, to be taught if we are fortunate. And yeah, so anyway, I just love that. And basically it's about these 4 people who are on a deep space mission that has sent them to this series of 4 worlds in a particular solar system that they think might have life. And it's going to be a long journey. They're going to be gone for like 80 years. It's going to involve, you know, sleeping for periods of time, so they won't be 80 years old when they wake up, but they will be older, or like when they come back, but they will be older. And there are, you know, scientists, and the main character is like I guess she's more of an engineer, but she really is fascinated by science, or the other kinds of science that she doesn't just directly do. And I really just, it was lovely. The whole thing is framed as like a message back to Earth, explaining what they're out there doing, because it's been a long time. And I love it. All right, fine. I love it. It was just like, it was lovely. It was lovely. And there are queer characters in this, which I mean, not surprised by because it's Becky Chambers, but like pleasantly made happy by. One of them's asexual. That's 100% a thing I love. So I was really excited about that. And I don't like this cover. I feel like when I run out of things to properly say about a book, I just start like dunking on the way it looks or complimenting it. But in this case, I do not like this cover at all. Like, it sucks. There's a different cover that's got like a planetscape with like a beautiful, like an orange sky. That one I like, but unfortunately this is what they had at the library, so like, whatever. But it's really good. And I highly recommend it. It's a little bit, like if you've read the Wayfarer series, this is a little bit more into science stuff than those books tend to be. Those books are a lot more about character, but this is about both. It has science, but it also has just like these 4 characters who are living together and doing work, and like I said, it's about exploring just for the sake of gaining knowledge, and I like it a lot. Yeah, this was really good. You should read this. All right, I finished another book, an audiobook, The Mismeasure of Man by Stephen Jay Gould. It's nonfiction, kind of obviously, and it was really good. Like, yeah, it was an excellent book. But how do I explain what it's about? Oh boy. Okay, so first of all, this was the 2nd edition, to which he made just not huge changes. Basically, he explains in an added introduction at the beginning all about this, and how his choice in the book largely was to focus on kind of older and fundamental arguments rather than things that have popped up more recently that are just sort of more modern retreads of those older arguments. That way he wouldn't really have to update the book a lot. But he did, for the second edition, he just kind of added in a few comments, and then he put some essays tacked on in the back of it to address the book, The Bell Curve, and some related stuff. So basically what this is about is gosh, how do I even... It's about the fallacy that we can or should rank humanity by intelligence. And it starts off with this idea of measuring people's skulls to see which groups of people are the smartest without, even examining the idea that having a bigger brain doesn't necessarily make you smarter. They didn't even prove that. They just went for it. And then that kind of leads eventually into intelligence testing. And he talks about a number of famous scientists who made their names on this kind of stuff. And basically just the idea that, first of all, there are distinct types of people. Second of all, that those distinct types of people can be ranked by intelligence. Third of all, that you can even measure intelligence. Fourth of all, that intelligence is even a singular thing. All of these are issues and traps that people fall into when talking about this stuff. And yeah, so basically it's a lot of it is a lot of racist bullshit. And that can be pretty hard to get through because he quotes a lot of stuff, and it's not just racist bullshit, it's sexist as well, and it's very ableist, because among all of these different assumptions that get made, the assumption that the smarter you are, the more worthy you are is definitely one of them. And so he examines this kind of stuff and talks about how the science isn't good and the logic isn't good. And yeah, I don't know, I really liked it. I liked that he had also the guts to just say, here are my biases. And he points this out in the book. He says that, like, the authors of The Bell Curve will never admit to having a bias, but they do. I will admit to having a bias. And here it is. And, he's like, I think we need to admit as scientists to having biases, because then you know where you need to kind of compensate for that. Of course, his bias is a lot more pleasant than theirs. His bias is, I think people are all equal, and not, I'm a conservative who writes for the New Republic sometimes, which, yeah, so he's cool. I would love to read more of his books. I totally want to. He was actually a paleontologist, I think, and his kind of field of study is not the field of study of studying humans or human intelligence, but they do some statistical analysis stuff. So he explains also in the introduction, like, why he felt like this was something that he could write about, because on the one hand he's kind of removed from it, but on the other hand he knows a lot about, like, the underpinning, like, statistical analysis stuff that they talk about. Anyway, it was really interesting, and I highly recommend it. And I definitely want to read more by him in the future. So that was a good choice, and yeah, you should read it. All right, really quickly. Last book of the month, The Mark of the Golden Dragon by Ellie Meyer. This is book 9 of the Bloody Jack Adventure series, which I've been doing a prolonged reread of. So I'm making a vlog about this book and the next one, so I'm not going to talk about this much here except to say that I liked it. It was fun. And yeah. Yeah, like a good way to end the month.